I think, first of all, I think that gold may be needed as a currency soon. I think the troubles in this country are basically unbearable. I think if you're watching the convention right now, the Democratic convention, you can't see anything that you like if you're an American out of that convention. We've got troubles in the markets. You've got troubles with jobs. You've got a lot of people looking for what we would consider a possible safe haven, and one of them is gold. Let's be clear about one thing. Inflation isn't coming down. It's just not going up as fast. We are still well above the ridiculous target of the Fed of 2%. And of course, we're still well above the 3.2 or whatever was reported last month on the CPI. We're still well north of 10% of inflation. Just go to the grocery store if you don't believe it. I mean, gasoline is up 65% nationwide, and in some places higher since Biden has been elected. So again, if you realize that about 80% of everything you do is related to energy and to gas or to fossil fuels, prices aren't coming down. So inflation may be slowing, but it's not coming down. And we continue to have the Fed look for these rate cuts that they keep talking about, which I don't think are going to come. But I mean, the economy is in a very sad shape, and inflation does not look to come down. If you look at the 14 points that Harris put in her economic plan, that would put your tax dollars at about 80% of your income to help support this government, which is a joke in itself, because stop spending our money. Use it for something worthwhile, not worthless, because I'm tired of paying for the Ukraine war. I'm tired of supporting China, and I'm tired of supporting everybody. Let's support America, not everybody else. I believe that we're about inches away from being the CCP of the United States of America. I think we're very close to becoming a communistic country. I mean, not so much for me, I'm old. It won't happen in my lifetime, but it's getting very close, and it's getting to be a scary thing because all they care about is globalism and trying to take away your hard-earned tax dollars. Simply, the taxes are hiked, and of course, we pay more taxes on our goods because the prices are higher, so it is known as the hidden tax of inflation. If Kamala Harris wins, I think it'll be a disaster. I think that we will go in all kinds of trouble. I mean, when your vice president is more concerned about putting tampons in boys' bathrooms, that doesn't look like a very good candidate to me. Gold is also anticipating, listen, the stock market has been up basically on an air. It's like at an air pump, just pumping air into it, making it go higher. I think people are getting a little bit nervous, and they're pulling some of their money out of the equity market and putting it into the gold market. I think a lot of new money is going in there right now because, again, you've got people buying. And of course, even Costco is a big player now in selling gold. So I think that we are anticipating some trouble, but we've already got a lot of trouble. Again, I don't think you need to anticipate what you've already got. We have basically a disaster in this country right now with the overwhelming immigration issue, continuing that they want to cut veterans' pay, but they want to continue to support illegal immigration. Where does that make sense? So certainly, if you're a little bit afraid, you might be looking into the gold market. I'm sure there's people that are buying gold now that never even thought about buying gold before. But now, because of what's going on, again, I'm going to go back to that gold and silver may be needed as a currency someday. I think when you look at the fiat currency system, which is, first of all, a phony cartel type of system, I mean, dollars are worthless, right? Whether they be U.S. or anybody else's, because there is nothing backing any of them. And the central banking system around the globe, not just the Federal Reserve, they continue to create more new money. And you tie the banks into that, which nobody thinks about. You know, the banks at the same time are creating new money because of fractional banking. They're allowed to lend 10 to 1. And during COVID, they were allowed to lend as much as they wanted on a dollar. So again, all we're creating is another banking crisis. You've got regional banks that are at least 600 have admitted to having troubles, which means that there's probably 2,000 that are really in trouble. And I think the big banks are in trouble as well. And I think this is nothing more than an air balloon. I think we got a problem in housing. We just had the jobs revised to a disastrous number. We've got more layoffs coming. We're in a recession. Whether the government or the Federal Reserve want to admit to the fact that we're in a recession or not, we are in a recession. Now, of course, if you're in the upper 10%, recessions are good for you. But if you're in the middle class and below, a recession is not so good. You can't afford to feed your family. They're pricing in right now a 100% chance of a rate cut in September. I don't know how you can base the things on inflation and then say that you're going to cut rates. It doesn't make sense. So I don't see them cutting rates in September either. I don't think they can cut rates this year. I think that you're in a world of hurt. If a rate cut does come, that will signal that we are in major financial trouble already. And I don't think they can do that if they're going to continue singing this song that there is not a recession and that everything is good. Biden was a disaster himself. Kamala Harris is going to be worse. I'm not saying that the Republican Party is so great either. I mean, I'm a believer that both sides of the aisle are criminals, okay? I'm a believer that none of them do anything except if it involves getting themselves money. However, I do believe that being a libertarian, the right has a little bit more fiscal conservatism and worries more about the tax dollar, which is more of a concern as me as a citizen. I'm tired of all these issues, including the transgender issue. I mean, you just saw the Olympics where a man playing as a woman won a gold medal who was not allowed in any other world event other than the Olympics. And this is what they're trying to turn this country into, and I'm not a fan. Okay, I think that we're turning this into a disastrous place, and I believe that there's a very good possibility that we could see another revolutionary war or a civil war in this country, because I think we're getting too far apart, and the media is playing a big part in that. The national media is no longer, as I grew up with Walter Cronkite or Huntley and Brinkley, where they just report the news. If you have an opinion, you can find a station that will support that opinion. And I don't like that as well. That, to me, news is supposed to be reported, not news, in my opinion, should be reported. We're going to see a 50 to 70% haircut. I've said this for about a year now, and I can't tell you when. And in full disclosure, I'm long these markets right now as a trader. Okay, and I'm always long of my investments, but they are hedged. But at the end of the day, I think that at some point this market will melt down. I think at some point we're going to find out that the money really isn't there, that the deficit is so great that we can't overcome, and we continue to destroy generation after generation coming forward. And to me, that's problematic. And of course, I think you're already seeing a lot of this in the housing market, because builders are starting to make deals that they would never make before, and I think they're scared to get stuck with inventory, because actually who can afford to buy a new house today with the rates today that what they are? And again, these are not expensive rates. If you really go back, I mean, my first mortgage was 14%. So again, these are cheap rates if you're young and have never experienced normal rates, because these are still below normal lending rates, okay? And of course, it makes your dollars worth less, which makes inflation higher. It's a bad mix of what we're watching and what we're seeing, and we're being taken apart and put into a globalism type of system or a socialism or a communist system, because you can see we've already given up a lot of our freedom of speech because websites don't allow conservative speaking for the most part. This administration, and some before it, but this one especially, has turned everything over to the 1%. When Facebook or Meta now and Google come to the government and say, we want you to put in regulations, why are they doing that? They're doing that because they want to eliminate any possibility of competition in the future. So in today's world, with this current administration, no small business can survive because of the cost of being in business and because of the regulations of being in business now. They have destroyed the small business guy. And under the current rule, there will not be another Steve Jobs or a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk that can take something from the garage and bring it into a multi-billion-dollar corporation, because this administration has destroyed all opportunity for small business to survive. You want to get out of debt? Quit funding the illegals. Quit funding the Ukraine war. Quit making bad deals with China. The United States of America would be an island, okay, because we don't need anybody. We have enough here to support ourselves from natural resources. We're missing one thing in this country that we could certainly do without, which is some of the rare earth materials, okay? Other than that, we are totally self-dependent. And again, I don't know about you, Elijah, but I'm tired of my tax dollars going to fund illegal immigration. I'm tired of watching them support the homeless in the streets that have come from other countries. I'm tired of sending my money to Ukraine. I'm tired of sending my money into China and having all these politicians get rich. Well, they take my tax dollars and build the debt that is almost ridiculous. So you want to solve it? First, you got to stop giving it away for nothing. Okay, that's how you solve the debt problem. You have to stop supporting. You have to stop supporting those that are taking away your money. You have to stop supporting organizations that are voting to take away your money. You got to go to your congressman. You got to go to your local government first, because, of course, we don't go by the Constitution anymore, but the Constitution clearly states that government is run city, county, state, and the federal government is supposed to be the overseer, not the largest employer in the world, okay? So you got to start with your city, and you got to stop supporting all these people. I mean, this EV crap, most people are unhappy with it anyways, and we are not prepared to do it. But again, nobody cares until it's too late, okay? Nobody cares until it directly affects them. And when it does, then then either they go for government subsidies or they go live on the street, because that's the problem. And we're far too forgiving on everything that goes on in this country when we need to take a stand and quit supporting the groups that steal our money and run away with it, because that's what you're watching, and that's what's happened over in this country for years. I mean, this is not new. I don't think it's ever been so wide open than it is right now. When you watch the funding of Ukraine, billions of dollars for what? To keep a war ongoing? I mean, we know wars are good for the economy, okay, because they keep people working. But overall, this is ridiculous, because as we have Americans, are paying our tax dollars to support a ridiculous war?